would hold the key to us.
Okay. Andy or Heather, is that the same for you guys too? Are they
Oh, wait a minute, let me get,
unmuted?
hang on, I was fixing the recording. There you go. There she goes.
Thank you. Andy, sorry he can't make it. He's feeling under the weather. But with New River Transit, we're urban. So how that works is that FTA and the state decide what the allotment will be, the allocation that they'll give us. And they do that in 5-year increments and on the step and tip, and that'll all increase since the budget has increased. But it'll be a little while before we know what changes that'll be, but the state helps FTA decide where this funding is going and how it's divided upon, between the urban. So we'll definitely get it, but it's just the local is where we struggle, making sure we have the local match to be able to cover all the funding that's provided to us.
Okay, well, Commissioner Taylor and Commissioner Luises and myself, we would welcome any type of transportation that we can get into our area to assist with the potential of 50,000 people coming in across 3 counties. Of course, that would give us, oh, they're on too. Okay, thank you. That would give us, a lot of people coming in and no way to move them around. So if I know that Tim, you were able to work with the mayors down the valley and get things moved down there. Heather, we've had the what I'll call the party bus lines a couple of years or maybe 3 years ago, and those were good on Friday and Saturday nights. But we need something that's going to be, week around, and we need to work with you somehow in order to get something set up.
Well, Commissioner, can I make a suggestion that we probably, in our case, and even with New River, we would probably need to have a meeting set up with the state office, the Division of Public Transit, Bill Robinson's office, to let him see how that money is going to be distributed. So he can, like on our end, New River can only service that urbanized area. We can only go into the rural area unless there's an agreement and the Division of Public Transit will allow that when it comes to regular general public transportation. So we would need the Division of Public Transit from my end to be involved in a meeting, in a discussion like this. So to allow the commission to have a better understanding what their take would be, allowing us to do certain things. I'm open to it. I'm very open to helping out as much as I can, but I'm handcuffed when I cannot go into Heather's area because I'm a rural system, and where that's an urbanized area. We cannot allow, unless the division makes an exception, FTA makes an exception to allow us to go in and use rural monies in an urbanized area, vice versa. So
I have a couple of questions. First, can you each tell me what the basic demographic is for your service that you provide now? Like what type of people and where are they going typically ride with you guys?
Heather, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can. Real quick before we haven't met with Fayette County Commission in a while, and I just wanted to let you know that Tim, since he has mentioned how the state the West Virginia Public Transit has to decide where we go and everything, that MTA and NRT now meet at the Fayetteville Welcome Center. Right. So that just kind of lets you guys know that the state's very open to having us connect and everything. They just have to be heavily involved in have the
Right.
final say so. But we cover all demographics. We have people who go to the doctors, people who just do it for recreation, to spend time with other people riding around. We don't see as much of the college as we would like to. The college kids are right here in Uptown, and we have expanded our service and our hours and have more of the routes going by them. So we hope to see that pick up. But where tech is kind of new, they're still getting expanded and everything. We have some low income. I mean, I have ridership charts and graphs that I would be happy to send to you guys and let you see what all we do and where everybody goes.
And that's the same with MTA. We're basically on the rural side from Montgomery up through Gawley, Ridge, Anstead, and connecting in Fayetteville with New River. Our demographics are all over the place. We do the seniors, we do the medicals, we do the individuals that go into work. We're seeing that starting to come out. Of course, we're only like 2 months into this, so it's kind of slow when it comes to actual numbers or breakdown. But we do have ridership reports, et cetera. But you're seeing across the board, our drivers are keeping us informed on a daily basis of what actually, we're only running 3 days a week. That's what the division wanted us to start out to make this thing grow. And with that being said, we started out like in Pocahontas County 2 years ago. And now Pocahontas is the second busiest route that we have on at MTA, other than the Summersville route. So we are connecting with New River, but we're also bringing a connector from Summersville when it's scheduled to meet our bus at High Coat, so we can go into to meet with New River. But right now we're just all over the chart. Non-emergency medical, we do that also. So it's a work in progress here. Heather knows how that is, but it's a work in progress on the route in Fayette County right now.
One of the problems that we're having, or one of the challenges that we have locally, is busing people to trailheads. We have crowded trailheads where there's not enough parking, and that's something that's come up and we're trying to develop even more trails. And some of the trails we're developing, like, will require the ability to bring your bike maybe on the bus, or to have the bus pulling something that could haul bikes and things like that. There's also a need, although there's a small business that does this sometimes, to get people to the put-ins and takeouts. And those are big, like, tourism things that I feel like as the traffic picks up here, that we're going to keep running into challenges. Are those things that you think your service could potentially expand to accommodate, or do you feel like that's a more specialized thing that we should seek some other resolution for?
Well,
According-
go ahead,
Heather.
No, go ahead, Heather. Go ahead.
We have as far as bicycles go, we can fit 2 on the front of each bus. So, it's very limited to what we can do. They're very seldom used. As far as being able to go with the trails, at this moment, it would be hard just because of the lack of staff, lack of being able to have the match to hire additional staff. But I mean, down the road, of course, that's something we would love to help with.
Yeah, and she's talking about the bike racks, and you can get multiple bike racks, different sizes, and put on your bus. And bigger buses, you can get more than multiple bike racks, size of bike racks. But what you were talking about earlier, going to the trailheads and stuff like that, that would be and need to be come up with a scope of planning, what needs to be, what you're looking at. And, with the meetings with the Division of Public Transit, will allow us to, let's say, develop a route that's what you would do. And another thing is contracted services. I know both of us can do contracted services. If the money was available to supply a bus or buses to do that type of transportation. So, that's something, you might want to keep in mind, that you can also do that type of service. We do have we'd have to get extra buses, and that's another story in itself because of the national shortage. But that is something that we both could do, but we have to go to our boards, and I have to go to the state for us to do that. My board is very open to expanding. And I think our director at the state level, he is wanting to use current systems to try to expand where there's not public transit. So, this is a good time, but like Heather said, it's same for us, is we require local match. And that's going to be your investment. When we started the rural side of Fayette County, one of the things that Bill Robinson wanted me to go to all the mayors is you need to invest in your community. And he's going to say that on the same side for MTA.
Okay, give us I know this is going to be a swag, but if you could give us an idea of what it's going to cost in order to bring a few people on, maybe 4 and 2 buses, and enough for operating that bus for, let's say, 6 months.
2 buses, 4 individuals. I can just tell you right now, MTA, it costs us like $55 an hour. It depends that's our rate. I know New River might be a little bit more because they're urban. I don't know. But it costs us about $55 an hour. If we put a full-time route on, you're looking at $70,000 to $80,000 a year per route. So, 6 months be $40,000 or something like that. If you're going, now that's going 5 days a week. Now, if you want to go 7 and 8 hours, it depends. There's a lot of stuff that you need to look at, when it comes to that. And I don't know.
And ours is 65 an hour for contracted work. And he hit the nail on the head with, it's about 70,000 for the vehicle, or the fuel and preventive maintenance and a full-time driver with benefits.
Okay. All right. Thank you both on that. Tom?
Y'all currently don't do any pickup or drop offs to the DRC, do you?
DRC?
You gotta do it.
Yeah, we don't in Fayette County. We do in our other counties. That's under the SOAR program that we work with them under the state opioid recovery grant. But DRC, we don't do anything in Fayette County.
Okay.
What's the DRC? I'm sorry.
It's the day report center. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, day report.
And the reason I- wait.
That's where they're court ordered some type of drug offense. They go report there.
Right. Yeah, I have a few here in Fayette or in Raleigh County due to the SOAR program where they call the 800 number. And but as far as I've not gotten any phone calls or interests in Fayette County.
Is there any way you could send Ruth your routes and your pickup times? So maybe we can forward that to Mr. Ciliberti, and maybe some of the people at DRC could use that. Because we're getting ready to move it up here in Fayetteville. It's in the process of being moved in Fayetteville. I know y'all probably have picked up and drops off in Fayetteville, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
at the Welcome Center.
Yeah. So that may be,
Yeah.
just for the heck of it, maybe Mr. Ciliberti could pass it along to Department of DRC, and maybe even schedule some of the people to use that so they can get to the meetings.
Interestingly, too, I know when we have folks in rehab, and I've had clients in rehab in places like Huntington and other places that DHHR will pay for bus passes.
Well, here-
If they need a bus pass to be transported for that purpose, or to go, around town to get to the doctor, get to work, or whatever the deal is, they will often pay for it.
No, we operate, both of us operate under the state opiate recovery grant for at least this year. And people just need to call the 1-800 number, or like DRC needs to call one of us. I will not go into Heather's urbanized area unless she needs help. I mean, and then that's only thing they need to do is just call the 1-800 number or 877 number, or call MTA or New River directly, and we can schedule people that need drug recovery treatment or their appointments to that.
Free.
I mean, that's free. It's zero cost to them because we get paid through a grant to do that.
Is the DRC programming covered under that? If
The-
they're in
if
that
it-
type?
Yes, as long as it's directly a treatment or recovery of the state opiate recovery, but falls under the state recovery
If
of.
they're in drug court or
opiate.
family treatment court for drugs, that's probably a clear.
Right.
Right, exactly, correct.
Tom, I'm sorry, what is Ruth's email going to be in the email chain? Clearly,
Just send it to Ruth, then Ruth can distribute it
Amy's
to us.
gonna send it to you.
perfect. Thank
Okay.
you, Amy.
I don't have any questions,
No,
Joe.
I don't. I got something for Austin after we're done. And the commission.
Anytime you say that, I'm filled with dread these days. I'm like, what now? What now?
Okay, any other questions for these two?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We appreciate y'all coming.
All right,
Thank
thank you.
Thank you so much.
If anything comes up and you guys would like to have us set up a meeting and look further into this, please don't hesitate to shoot us an email, give us a call, and we will do what we need to get Bill on board with things.
Thank you.
Thanks, Heather. Thanks, Tom, Tim, and have a Merry Christmas, guys.
Same to
Merry
you guys.
Christmas to you guys. Thanks for
Have a
having
good day.
us.
All right, bye-bye.
In this transportation, this transportation funding, you was talking about the bridge. That's what you was gonna more or less put in funding for the bridge. And is there, and is it in safety? I haven't had a chance to read that 150,000 pages that you sent yesterday. So I'm just gonna ask you, maybe is any of this funding for, it's for safety? Can it be for safety?
Yes.
Okay, so in safety, could we possibly use it for crosswalks or biking trails that goes across main roads and secondary roads and stuff like that, and ATV crossings? Or
I don't know for sure, but that, based on what I do know, it sounds like that could be a possibility.
if that's the case,
I will check how much.
let me know, because I would like, if the committee is okay, commission, that would be something I would want to put in for X amount of dollars for these bike crossings to make it safer for both the pedestrians and the cars and all that. So,
I'll check it. as soon as I find out.
okay, thank you.
He also sent us an email on what the state will be getting.
It was I just sent it. about 15 minutes.
This is 175,000 pages.
No, it's only three.
It's,
This is the Reader's Digest version.
Okay.
It's the last breakdown that they sent to us
Okay.
for each pot of money. How much we're going to get. It gives you the total amount, break it down over time.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, in our GRDA, would like to discuss transportation. So Jenna, and Andy, or whoever's on, please go ahead and,
Good morning.
Good morning.
hey, it's
Morning.
Jen and Andy. Okay.
Jenna's also here. She's sitting over there. She
Got
can't.
it. She's making sure that you guys say the right things, or she's got the whip.
No, she's neither.
It was good to hear from the Mountain Transit and from New River Transit just now. We thought it would be worth chiming in. Commissioner Brenneman, something I brought up when I saw you recently, meeting that we had with New River Transit, where we discussed a lot of the topics you just mentioned. In addition, one of the topics we covered was not just the concept of shuttling recreational users, but of transit in between transportation hubs, including our regional train stations, our Amtrak stations. The likelihood of tourists and visitors arriving with gear in hand, we could try to predict that, but in any case, we can be ready for it. And so the conversation was, what would it take to have public transit be able to pick up people and take people to our train stations from our recreational destinations and our lodging sites and throughout, Raleigh and Fayette County. Again, this was a discussion with just New River Transit, but we also had the Park Service sitting at that table that day. And at the time, it was Claire from the Park Service. She has since ceased to work here locally for the Park Service, but what we did do was open up a conversation about the possibility of collaboration with the Park Service. So I can't speak for the Park Service, but I do know that they are willing to be at the table to talk about the kinds of collaborations that Park Service units throughout the country have created with local government and public transit to provide those types of services to visitors, to address the topics that you discussed earlier, traffic alleviation, shuttling to and from destinations, just overall improvement of visitor and user experience. And of course, this is all running in parallel with the services that our public transit providers already provide for our workforce and special uses. So we just wanted to chime in to say that we want to be a part of this discussion, help move it forward. And they're glad to hear that it's being featured in today's infrastructure meeting.
Well, thank you, Andy. And I do remember also us talking about having someone with an entrepreneur level doing bicycle rentals so that people don't have to travel with their own gear. They can actually rent a bicycle in either Mount Hope, Oak Hill, Fayetteville, or someplace else. And there's probably going to be opportunities for that, along with other modes of transportation as we dig through the years. Tom's been working very vigilantly on a lot of different things concerning around the transportation of people, whether it be bicycles or side-by-sides and even Jeeps. So we've got a lot of things, in the works throughout the county, but we definitely appreciate your input. And it's great knowing that Park Services would be willing to work with us so that we can get some more information. It seems like every time that we have a meeting, we get educated on something different so that we can make extra contacts and gives us an extra opportunity for funding. I also see for anybody that's an entrepreneur that has been in the transportation or even thinking of a transportation, going from site to site or from the head of what'd you say it was, a parkhead or no, a trailhead.
Trailheads.
Yeah, a trailhead, taking them from trailhead to trailhead or knowing where the local things are, because the locals know, but a lot of people from out of town don't know where the trailheads start and end. So, I mean, there's going to be some opportunity for that. Same thing with Uber. To my knowledge, there's only one car and it's in Fayetteville that does Uber. So,
And it changes all the time, like you have to be in the loop to know who the Uber driver is.
Only on certain
yeah,
days
so
now.
there's going to be some opportunities for people in this area if we just get the right things set up. NRGRDA has been a great partner for us for the last year. And we're looking forward to keep maintaining that relationship because you guys don't know how important you are to us. We've seen a great change with our ability to speak with you and with your willingness to come in and work with us. And my two other commissioners can expound upon that if they'd like to.
No, I just want to say, Andy, when you mentioned about the transportation from the train station and other areas, when me and my father had a rafting company in the 90s, what we did is we actually put together a package with rafting and tour Fayette County. And we actually took a bus and, if 8 people came rafting, they wanted to tour Fayette County, we would take them to the sites, overlooks and historical sites in Fayette County. And that was part of the package. And I don't know, I'm sure somebody's doing it today. Does anybody know? I have no clue, to be honest with you, but
I'm not aware of
but
anything.
we actually sold packages and it didn't do bad, really. Now that this is where we're at today, to me, I think it would be a real big thing because people really, they enjoyed that.
I know the Boy Scouts are starting to partner up like with some of the companies for skeet shooting and stuff that they offer that the companies don't, but I haven't heard of any packages outside of kind of the basic, the basic thing. Like I haven't heard about the full, like any other tour other than maybe rock climbing, paddle boarding.
Well, that's what we did.
That
We did
kind of
one day
stuff.
rafting and one day a tour. We'd take them and drive them to certain trails, certain overlooks.
Right.
And stuff like that. And just to show them Fayette County and then have a lunch. It'd be a half a day or a full day. And we had routes that my dad drove. And my dad actually doesn't drive. And he drove them and stuff like that. So, but I think it's something that, it was not a big deal. We didn't take a lot of people, but I think today with all the changes is I think, a tour of the historic and other places in Fayette County, along with other trips, I think it'd be a big
Well, and the
deal.
people who don't want to raft would probably love to see under the bridge. Like when I have people come, visit me, I drive them under the bridge, let them take pictures
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I mean, we did that too. Yeah. And one of the things is we come back, go all the way around underneath the bridge, stuff like that. Not walk underneath the bridge. You couldn't do it
Okay,
at bridge walk.
Jenna,
Sorry, we got muted. We accidentally I muted
I
to
don't have to
ask
say
you.
that all over again, do I?
no.
No. We heard you guys. I muted to ask Andy about something and then I couldn't unmute myself. And so, yeah, I think so. One of the, I'll let you talk about it, Andy, since that was this is Andy's been running transportation conversations here. So I think you have a better knowledge of this, but go ahead.
Well, MST and NRT mentioned it earlier, and I think it bears repeating from our perspective too, which is that it's really the funding. It's figuring out the funding. They have federal funding that requires local tax dollars, and especially now with the federal infrastructure bill that's come down, there's plenty of unanswered questions about what the upward potential is for getting funding, not just for new staff or new buses, but for any number of plans, pilots, and such. So we definitely do want to we want to be part of, even if it means pulling together a regional conversation about the goals. Here literally in our hands right now, we have the review of transit needs from the Fayette Raleigh MPO. This was published in May of 2014. It's available online on the MPO's website, and it's a fantastic document we're not trying to reinvent any wheels, no pun intended. We also have New River Transit's analysis of the transportation system, specifically the chapter 4 in hand. I've been trying to do my homework, but my point here is that we've got a lot of good plans on the books as far as what the goals and the long-term visions are. I think this one goes through 2050. We know all this stuff can't happen fast, but what it seems is we do have some real opportunities unlike we've had before. And the timing, along with the willingness of our public lands managers to really identify those destinations that people do, the demand, it, you know, either has existed or has increased recently for people to get to and from them. I think we're at a really good juncture to pull together a conversation strongly focused on the potential for public transit to meet unmet needs and to improve upon the whole, not just the visitor experience, but just everyday life for all of us who live in the region. So I think
yeah, I think for me, I think what the commissioner, what you as the commissioners need to hear is that basically when we had this conversation with New River, it was federal funds are available for these programs, but local match has been the problem. They've had a difficult time pulling down these federal funds because of the lack of local match that they have. And so just wanted to nail that home and say that it sounds like there are opportunities to develop some of these routes. We just need to sit down and talk about what we have locally and what they can pull from the federal resources.
What's the match?
And one thing I heard mentioned was, I know we do have businesses, the entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well. Businesses serving those shuttle needs, and I feel like having those stakeholders too, not just the local government, local transit, and public lands managers, but actually having local business owners present is going to be a really integral part to this conversation too, as we talk about how public transit and multimodal transportation can serve our local business community.
What's the local match? What's the percentage? Is there a percentage?
We probably
We need to ask
defer back to the
Yeah.
transit authorities. I would expect that they're going to be more in tune, not only with the existing funding structure that they have, but also the potential for new funding structure. But we do intend to get educated as quickly as
And I
possible.
feel like that's a conversation.
There's going to be two of the two counties that's under in our GRDA, and that's Summers and Fayette, that just don't have public transportation readily as Raleigh County does. So I would love, and not speaking for the other two guys, I mean, they can, and not that I just call everybody guys, not that they can't speak for themselves, but I would really love to have a meeting with the two transportation, ourselves, Park Services, have Summers County rep and have I guess a Raleigh County rep too, since the 50,000 people will be pouring in across those three counties. But we definitely need to get something set up and relatively fast, because I just feel that we're not going to be ready for the onslaught of people that'll be traveling as long as the gas prices don't go to $20 a gallon.
Ms. Brenneman, we'll work to coordinate that meeting in early 2022, if that pleases you, toward those goals. And we'll have all of that in mind, and we'll work towards putting that together from that regional standpoint. And we'll happy to have your input on who all needs to be at the table in the conversation. So.
Okay, thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. Jenna, you guys are great. Anything else for us? And can we keep you guys on if you're not busy for the sewer conversations? Water.
We're here for the long haul. We're here for the long haul today, John.
Woo! Woo, all right. All right.
We just have to be able to unmute ourselves is the only thing.
Sorry. That's all
I heard
right.
you call me, but I was waving my arms around.
I gotta do that every now and then, you
Yeah,
know.
you do that. Okay.
She texted us all, none of us saw it.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, we'll be here.
Okay, thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Next, we have 5 minutes until we start. Yes, you can. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, John.
PSDs. David with Thompson and Litton is going to be talking about New Haven Public Service District. Is someone going to be on from Meta Bridge? Tom? Sure. Is someone going to be on from Meta Bridge? Because they're one of our priorities. Okay.
I'm also.
Yeah. Yeah, I could tell with Larry sitting over there, so. But White Oak also, and Larry's going to tell you, we'd like to consider another part for White Oak. And that's going over top of Carlisle Mountain, all the way down into Mossy.
Okay.
Or down to where the turnpike's at.
Water extension?
With no sewer. Okay. But let's take a little break and we'll be right back.
Advertising. It sounded like it's supposed to say. Tom's signing before I get something set up.
Leave it up. to him, he'll figure something.
Yeah.
You want one wide on a paper? That's on paper.
Got 2 different things there. New Haven and White Oak. We're back. We're going to be talking with David Altizer with Litton, Thompson and Litton, discussing White Oak PSD and New Haven PSD, which New Haven and hopefully White Oak are going to be working together on a big sewer system going from over top of Carlisle Mountain all the way down to TNC, the gas station there, Mossy. So, but more to come on that later on.
So far, it's new news.
That is new news for you?
So far.
Okay, good. I'm doing great today. I'll turn it over to Tom now.
Okay.
All right, no, with our plan, I talked to you earlier about we're having good sewer services. We're up among the top, along with good drinking water. Let me turn to that page here again one more time. Broadband, we already talked about. Lack or poor access to water and sewer infrastructure, need for clean, safe drinking water, need for stormwater management. And that all has stuff to do with water and sewer infrastructure. So those were the top things on infrastructure, along with, public transportation or lack of public transportation. So it's a very important feature. We still have our friends from NRGRDA on the line with us. They're working on getting an overall plan for the county on lack of sewer, so we can try to work something on that too. So it's 20, how do you say it? It blows your mind that it's 2021 with the lack of sewer and water going to some of these homes.
Yeah. It's worse than the third world. And let me just say, I was without water 3 days in this past week because I had a water main break between my house and the street. And I was miserable. Like I can't imagine how these, and I'm not a baby, believe it or not. Like I camp and stuff, but I felt like I was really roughing it, trying to, get the slightest thing done. You know, dishes, just you take everything for granted and you don't have water, and then you realize, holy cow, how did anybody ever, you know, survive like this? So I, you know, regularly have a new appreciation one way or the other for the people who are going without basic infrastructure. It's just, it's outrageous to me in this day and age. And then this is supposedly the first world, but not here in rural West Virginia. And it's just sad to me. I mean, I've been to third world countries with better, you know, infrastructure in some ways than we have. And it, you know, I really hope with your help that we can get, you know, what should no longer be a luxury, what should be something that folks can expect.
I might be able to say something just briefly, is that I have to spend the day there at Piggly Wiggly over at Hyco and talk to the people that are hauling water with a pickup truck continually. It's an all-day thing, every day of the week, and that's just to fill up a reservoir at their home or to feed it right off of their truck, right? However, they work it out. But we're hauling water there from a field station that's been installed, and that thing ought to be done away with.
Sure, at least an emergency backup or something for folks, but no, I agree with you, and it's just, I mean, it's sad to me, and these aren't people, I mean, you know, I'm not gonna make too many presumptions, but there's not a lot of wealth in this part of the state either, so these are people who probably, you know, can't afford to pay for water like that. I mean, it's, and they're paying taxes, but yet
And the hard part is that purchasing the water with a few quarters is really not the big expense. You got a vehicle that you got to have insurance on, and you got to maintain and buy gasoline, and that's a whole process that people have to supply themselves just to have drinking.
it's just not.
You also mentioned somebody had a creek that ran dry or something.
Well, yeah, well, in the New Haven, remember when New Haven was here before, when y'all were here before, and we got some emails from some citizens knowing that we were going to have those issues, and there were citizens who said that they no longer have access, like their wells, you know, the water supply to their wells had dried up. And so even where they had previously had, because some people are like, well, you know, if you live in the middle of nowhere, then you shouldn't expect to have all the amenities. Well, I mean, they had well water at one time. It's not like they went out there and said, oh, well, just, you know, this is how I'm going to live. You know, it's just no longer available to them. And, you know, anyway, I want to hear what you have for us so we can get some attention down in Charleston to this issue.
Which one we going to do first, White Oak or?
I would go ahead and do New Haven.
What would I provide? For we did this. I'm going to take this map out here. Number of customers and show you the areas in general, and there's detail that, you know, within the community. Cost, right behind the map of that part. Page 4, you'll see there's one cost splash summary. That page tells you that.
Okay, so this is just the areas that's going to be bringing in potential new customers.
That's correct.
Okay, this doesn't have your whole area, because your whole area is almost half the county, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's what you're seeing there is areas that we are proposing to serve in our next process of contracts. We've got 2 contracts that are currently being worked on now that we refer to as contract 1819, which serves a lot of unserved areas now. Will we continue to piece in the puzzle that We're going to catch these areas to unserved people. And so, and this map that you're looking at is our next round of contracts that'll continue that process, going farther out into the unserved areas, the roads that need water desperately, and it's probably some of the emails and calls you got. People, some people getting water out of a pond, some people getting water out of a creek, people hauling water, getting water out of a well that may or may not be safe to drink. And most likely is a poor quality, even if it is what we would call safe. But some of these areas that we're talking about, years ago, we had water testing done out there in that Ramsey area. And there was cobalt found in the water sources in people's wells, high levels of cobalt. And it's supposed that at one time, the Plateau Medical Center, when it was the Oak Hill Hospital, had a dumping ground in the neighborhood for medical waste. But anyway, that is truly, John, just a snapshot of one area of future water line development.
Okay, now, Mr. Cart, did you ever get water yet? Are you in one of these areas that may get water? Okay. You know, ever since he got on that board, he doesn't come and see us no more, so.
Well, they made it too hard for us, didn't they? I mean, great day.
If it would be easier for you to sit down, we can move that microphone. Would that be
Okay.
better?
All right,
I'm okay for right now. I
Okay.
might have to sit down.
all right, go ahead.
Okay, so anyway, I probably should have done this. You guys might want to take this map out and get your pencil out and write these costs on here. I've got the costs on separate pages.
Okay.
Project one, if you look on there, it's like 4 pages. It's called future project one, Old Wing Road. That's summary. It's $3.255 million.
Does that go all the way through from Saturday Road all the way through to towards Sunday Road, Richmond Chapel?
Yeah, if you look on that map, I gave you there,
Yeah.
that's the yellow area. That's
Okay.
right. It goes, and then it is. Okay, and then project two is 4.952. Two customer counts there too, by the way.
Yeah.
Project three is 3.491.
Okay.
Now, the fourth project, 6 homes on it.
And that's contract 18.
No, those are minutes.
Okay,
It's called Whispering Pines Lane.
okay,
It's a nice little area. And what we're doing, I just want to be honest with you, we're going to apply for application right now, let's working on that. That's $700,000. But we present it to you all in case that doesn't go through, y'all can help us with that. But the thing I want you to remember, that December 30th, you want to do contract 18, contract 19. That's two big ones. They're in well along in the process. You want to take the help, reduce the rate.
I don't think we made a decision. I said, we
talked
talked about getting figures to see what the reduction would be for two bouts of money being paid.
But now what I heard Austin say, I think earlier, was that would be a priority project for the state. Is that when contract 18 is just your post government, and it's already issued, we're going to go to PSC and we're almost ready. That's almost show already. And contract 19 is way down the road also. These four here, we got preliminary numbers.
I understand something there about this, you're up too much, but the total amount of the money that will take to almost eliminate go away. So far, none of our customers have surcharge. And these new projects that we're looking at here, they're not proposed to have surcharge. So if there's any way that the funding scenario could be worked out, that we could all but do away with the money that we got to borrow. We kind of locked in the necessity of borrowing a certain amount from DWTOS because we took their grant dollars for it. If we can eliminate that down so that if we had a surcharge, it would be so minimal that it would not be a burden on any of our people. We're probably looking at what, between 8 and 9 million to make it go away.
Contract 18, contract 19.
Yes.
And you have these contracts also, these projects also.
Yeah.
But the two are way down the road. And
Really put them on line.
About $1 million to make our borrow go away.
Yeah, and she could do a project at a time.
Yeah, John says if you
We're
were to
looking
each
right
one,
now,
he's talking
what,
about
$13
line.
contract 8,000.
Project 1, 2, and 3, I believe, on that map.
Just $26 on top of a water bill. If I was on the PSC committee down there, I'd tell Mr. Kenny Hayes that he had rock shoes. It's on.
But this is a perfect opportunity. This is what this money's for, is for places that can't stand on their own, to help out people who need it. So, I guess what I'm saying is you guys maybe want to shoot for contract 18 and contract 19 first, and maybe ask for more money than what you're talking about. It really doesn't matter, because all these pile up on top of each other on the big projects. All the money you get will help, it don't matter if it's on contract 18 or 19, you want to do on minutes. That makes sense.
Let me, I just want to make sure that we're clear on this. Mr. Hayes has done a really good job with his board. We were able to get Romy back on because of a miscommunication between the PSC and us. But we got all that straightened out and because of a paper that was found from 1998, something like that.
Yeah.
So with water, you can go around things and you don't have to make a 90-degree turn. Now, where West Virginia American Water is your water partner, what's West Virginia American Water putting into this?
They're putting roughly, you go ahead, David, I don't want to interfere with what. They're putting in roughly $5,000 for each new additional customer that they added.
And that's all they can put in, legally,
That's my motion.
legally by code.
That's
I'm-
right.
Yep, only $5,000 a household.
Per new customer.
Okay,
And it doesn't matter if it's residential or commercial customer.
I don't think so.
I think it's just residential, but I may be
Yeah,
wrong.
I think it is just residential because they may be another series of regulations that would govern a commercial customer. Most of the places we go, we don't have it for commercial customers.
We're hoping that'll change at some point.
We hope that does change, yes, ma'am.
And there are churches on some of these routes.
yeah. Are those reductions in the sheet that you're showing us for each project? Is it reflective in these costs? Okay. Project 1 is going to be adding X amount or 16 new customers. On your spreadsheet, where is that listed that the 16 new customers at $5,000 a piece?
Total cost. So they'll put in 5,000 times 16 to put in on that. So.
Only if all 16 sign up.
Yeah, they will pay for signed user agreements.
It's gotta be over 50%, gotta be over 50% before if it's grant approved, before it can even,
I believe it's 80.
is it 80%?
80%.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, so it's a significant number, but I feel that the majority of the people in that area will go ahead and sign these things so they don't have to spend a day hauling
Majority
water.
have. We have security in excess of 80% sign-up rate in all these areas that are currently under contract. And then these new areas that it's on the proposed sheet you got there, we will be surveying those people. Such as some of these areas haven't been surveyed yet or attempted to get a user agreement, but we haven't been in a position to be close enough to need one yet.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hayes, let me ask you this question. Since, you know, I guess West Virginia American Water will run the lines for you.
Well, actually, this will go out to bid for a contractor to put the water lines in.
Under the supervision.
Under the supervision and the water lines and the, I guess, specifications that are approved by the water company.
Okay. So when that's done, the $5,000 per home, can you use that to connect them up?
If they hook up when the water comes through, there's no tap fee for getting hooked up.
Okay,
However, the customer is responsible for what we call a lateral connection that will run from their house to the water meter. That's the only part that the customer has to hook up.
Those connections are in this price.
okay. Could you use though, the $5,000 from each home that you're getting to do those fees for them?
We haven't, but I suppose we could. We actually did that for the Wyoming Sewer Project because of economic issues in the area and the expense with laying a sewer line as opposed to a 3/4 inch water line. And so we actually contracted a local contractor, somebody local that also had the paperwork to do sewer work with the county health department. And he did all the lateral connections in Wyoming. The customer had no money had to be outlaid.
John, that's a great idea.
Yeah, because it would save a lot of money.
Yeah, the only thing bothers me about you having that idea, John.
You didn't.
I didn't come up with it.
Yeah,
That is a good idea. If they could put in that, some of these people, I think what John's getting at, and I agree with him, some of these people, the reason I believe they don't want to sign an agreement is they can't afford to run it into their house and run it is the problem, I believe. Because if paying a tap fee, they have to do the funding between the house and the tap, right?
yes.
So that could be some of the problem with people not having the funding, because it's not cheap to run.
It is not cheap because I just paid for that last week.
So,
And I didn't have a very long way to go.
yeah.
Oh,
I have to sit still.
Yeah, so I mean, if somehow we could use something or have something,
That historically, and I'm speaking from all the contracts, 1 through 17, that getting hooked up to the water is a minor expense compared to what they're already spending to have any kind. So it hasn't been an issue brought forward to the PSD that has been a deal breaker for anybody. And we did have a customer that myself and another board member was going to pay to have the line run themselves. It worked out that we didn't do it, but we were going to pay for that ourselves, though it might have set a bad precedent. But,
You didn't tell me about that program last week.
sometimes it's always right to do what's right.
Yeah.
And worry about the cost. It's a lot easier to say, I'm sorry.
well, and like Tom was getting to, the more that we can put toward this expense, the better off that everyone's going to be. So I would like for the, extra $5,000 per customer to go toward the customer. And
Well, sometimes it's simple, that wouldn't be a big problem to do. But you see, the only source of income that the New Haven Public Service District has, since we don't collect any water bills or anything, is oftentimes some residual funds that may be left from the water company residual. So when we have to pay for an audit, financial statement and things, we need to have a capital that we can
Well,
operate at. Even though we send quarterly reimbursement requests to a water company to reimburse us for those expenditures due to the O&M agreement that we have.
And I understand that, but maybe the state could say, okay, out of this money that we're gonna allot, we'll allow so much to run certain, lines that run the water from the tap to the house. I mean, I don't know. I'm just maybe just throwing it out there for,
I will check on that.
okay.
I mean, we could, we could estimate what the lateral connection would cost for all the customers and include that in another type of request.
Yeah.
But I'm not opposed to doing it, but we haven't done it for everybody else.
And I understand.
Well, everybody else has had water a lot longer than these people are getting it too.
That's true.
So,
We're just talking about it.
yeah, we're just
But
throwing,
I'm open to doing it, but we actually did it for the sewer connections in 100.
yeah, I'd like to see something done and see if it sticks against the wall. Throw ideas and see if they stick, and that's just one I thought of outside the box.
I think it's probably something that we could set a precedence for all PSCs, municipalities. Could that be a part of the process?
Well, I'll tell you what, it'll get you, it'll probably get you 100% on that accepting water, or wanting water.
Well,
Instead of
the other
80%.
problem is the water bill, of course, but now, like you said, if you're driving pickup 3 times a week down to.
Yeah, what's it cost?
Something like you're saving-
Wear and tear on your vehicle, yeah, gas and everything.
Yeah, there's another issue that, of course, in that process, we set a maximum that we would reimburse in Channel One. Well, let's face it, most of the houses were on small lots, most of the distances were relatively the same. And we set a maximum that we would reimburse. And so that became a part of the process. So that was $1,500 for sewer. But, if you got somebody for water that has a big piece of property in their house that's
200 yards.
or farther.
Yeah.
Back from the
Yeah.
property line where we set the meter.
Well, just say you'll pay for X amount of footage. Just,
That's what I'm saying. We establish a
Yeah.
maximum.
yeah. And that way it would become a part of the covenant and you'd be great. Okay.
This you might find interesting, the commission may find interesting. We have trouble signing up the people in Monroe County. But we don't here, but because it's cold here, and it's not cold in Monroe County. The groundwater is different. The groundwater out of the well in Monroe County is water. So people, a lot of people don't want to pay the water bill. But here, almost everybody's water is just nasty.
Yeah.
The iron in it and sulfur in it. Just FYI. And Kenny said, bro, it's fast getting used when you sign up. People want water, right?
They do.
Everybody's want water.
Not a problem. And all I gotta do is tell them, I said, everybody in our area understands what it's like to be without electricity. If you're out of electricity in Fayetteville, you still have water, most of us. And, but if you live out in the country and your electricity goes off, guess what?
Pumps out.
Pumps out. Yeah.
Pumps out.
And so I can vividly remember the first time the power went out at my house and we could still run water and flush our commodes. That was a big deal. That'll get somebody to sign the user agreement, but we've all experienced.
Okay. Tom or Allison, any questions so far? Tom?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
We would love y'all to put these projects and contract 1819 on your list that you're gonna send out to the legislature. The maximum you get.
We also have a Meta Bridge project because it's going to be adding, Tom, 199 people.
169.
169 people.
Something like that. I wish I had that paper. I should have brought it today. I apologize. Miss Taylor probably has it.
I might have.
Pulled out of her desk drawer there.
Who else is Middlebury, expecting to extend water service to?
Kenny, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I said, what area are they going to extend water to? Back toward Dane East or down Route 20 or?
She's gonna pull it up here. I hope she does. If not, I'm sure Amy
looking.
could probably pull
And I'm
it,
just
print it
curious
off.
because I'm familiar with the area. and I
I'm not
know
sure if it's in this stack or if it's in the stack I have on
Towards the
there.
end.
The list of the priorities we had that meeting on.
Interestingly enough,
That I
I
probably
was
can't
right.
get to because that's what I remember.
They are.
So give me a second. I haven't checked my second stash.
Hey, it's not typical.
New mayor, meeting the new council on the same thing. It wasn't just summer camp.
But we've got an awful lot of opportunity all over the county. So the low picking, the low grapes have already been picked. So now it's time to go, okay, where can we get the next amount of
And
people?
I'll say this, there's another area that I haven't had any conversation with, but I have had requests. And that's up there at Camp Washington Carver.
Yeah.
In that area, those people are currently unserved and we've got water to the state road garage there at Lookout. And out there, that's where it's now.
Meeting before.
Called Garvey Park.
She done
But
it
there's
later on
people out
Monday.
there
There's a meeting.
that I've talked with that
That's it.
water bad and
John Taylor was.
but I
in
thought
there.
they need PSD were close to striking it from the other end of that road there, but I don't know. But it's something at this point that if there's been no interest or conversation with Danny, we gotta make sure that those people aren't neglected through this process. Because the money may be available to do it and it may never be available again.
Yeah. It took us 12 years to get that road repaved. So,
Yeah, I know, see, and this is my opinion for what it's worth, is that there ain't nobody nowhere that don't deserve to have water.
yeah. Let me ask you this, coming back from Danny's, where Fred lives, going into Camp Washington Carver and not Beaver State Park, but what's Babcock State Park, is there water there?
No, there's no water out that length of that road. Where you turn off the 41, there on the Danny side, all the way through there's no water through Washington Carver, Babcock.
So it would be worthwhile to extend Danny's then up to Washington Carver, maybe up to that horse stable. And then you guys come from the opposite end because there's a lot of,
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So that way, we just need to serve the people. It don't matter who does it.
yeah, but that would make better sense for you guys to come that way because there's a lot of areas that don't have any
Sure.
houses in between.
PSC and the BPA love interconnections also.
Yeah,
That they can in emergency, they can help each other out.
yeah,
So if you did something like that, you could.
okay.
That's
There
it.
may be even some money available through the health department, somehow.
She's done it. She's
like that
printing it off.
interconnect To secure a water source with a power
You want printed?
outage. Or Homeland Security.
Well, I mean, I'd like to have it printed along with
Disaster somewhere.
Well, I know that Camp Washington Carver would love to have,
because we're gonna make a change
water.
in it today.
hopefully there's going to be some new events started there.
She's getting this copy.
Okay. So Amy's working on getting us a copy of that. That way you'll have.
Probably will have it too.
Yeah. I would like to commend you on Kenny on what you guys are trying to do with the water. There's going to be more opportunities, I believe, once we get the other things started that, that we've been talking that's in the works, as long as we get everybody on board with it.
Now, all them projects are $19 million. Is that,
You can, 18, 19 with that.
I counted all of them, other than the White Oak. It was 19.3.
Sounds right.
That's what I got wrote down. I went and added them up.
I heard earlier
Fine, clean that out.
broadband conversation, and in our particular case is that now probably more than any other time, time is money. When we started this project, we only approved it because our surcharge was going to be a couple, $3, okay? Well, because of the timelines and the time it's taken and the economic situation, and the employment situation, and the inflation situation, now it's $13. So it went from being something that a person could swallow to being something that's going to choke everybody. And so, the longer anything drags, the way it's looking right now with the broadband, water, sewer, we're only looking at, the numbers that we look at today may not be any good tomorrow because of inflation and those type of reasons. So, and I would encourage the legislature to strike while the amble's hot and get these people working, if the weather's going to be conducive to put people to work and getting our manufacturing facilities producing pipe and whatever they need. And anyway, I think you guys are doing great. Hang in there.
And I see you put a 10% contingency in that. Was that just?
Standard procedure.
Yeah.
That's a
yeah.
procedure they do on all of them.
Yeah, I've done it in anything I've done too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I was gonna ask a question about that now.
Okay, now, when we look at White Oak.
Can I make a point? One more point?
Oh, sure, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I don't know if there's gonna be a difference in timing on the funding, if it's gonna take a long time to get the funding from the state. One thing you may want to think about doing is fronting the money from the county funds, because you can do that right away, I think, for the preliminary engineering reports. That's the start of every project, it's $40,000 a project.
So it'd be 40 times 8 here.
No, times 4. We already
Times
got-
4.
we already
Times
got
4,
that.
okay.
Times
Okay.
4.
Okay,
And if you offer this, it's $160,000.
Yep.
To get, and it might not speed up, they may be, it's maybe a month out from the money anyway. So if it does make a difference in time, it would get things moving a lot faster. if you went front and Sorry.
And here it is.
Oh, that's fine.
I finally found it.
All right.
too late, Miss Taylor. I'm glad you did get it done.
Okay.
It's yours.
If we take a look at,
145 new. 145 new.
I was wrong.
okay. I knew it's,
You were close.
I knew
though.
I
You
had a
did
2 in it, but I
adjust
couldn't
down for
remember.
a hot minute.
All right, when we take a look at White Oak, it looks like it's going to run up through 55 phases in order to get this completed, Larry. Is that correct? Okay.
We're about a year into the project right now.
All right. So David, you want to take us?
These not, there's 2 different projects. The solids handling project is underway. They're actually under construction right now. This is a brand new project, so any funding at all yet. It's, as it stands right now, I'm not accepting. Plant cannot handle. The bypass. Chlorine, but nothing wrong. This is also.
Mhm. Yeah, I know.
Okay, so you know, and that's, I just know that I drive down Thurman, I see the beautiful falls, and people there almost every time I go by, there's somebody's there. Or, and that's,
Fishing.
yeah, so, somebody else state would be there, but it was one of those overflows, it'd be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Pretty bad. Plus, it's now it's a national park, and it's the river protected, so I think it's a big deal. Plus, they're under consent order with the Department of Protection and State of West Virginia.
Correct.
The time of the essence issue is they have to have, so the signs that we turned in August 2023. Yeah, and your design is complete, so we're real tight on that.
And they got the money for the design, the engineering, so that'd be $40,000.
That's one thing I would ask you for today, yes. 40,000 for that. We can start that now, we would make the August 2022, no problem. Couple weeks, get something. So 200,000. Or just committed, just commitment, and I'm pretty sure our company is going to do the work if y'all city.
Larry?
Of course, they got August 2026 to get all of it done, construction, everything done.
Okay. Larry, when you go back to your board, because the money is coming in from the federal government, I would like to see, she's musical up here this morning. I'd like to see the cost of doing the sewer over the mountain or doing another plant. I don't know who you guys are going to be working with for that or whatever. But I mean, while money's available, I would go ahead and throw it in there, especially if you're going to bring in the amount of customers that I feel you'll be bringing in. And I just see a minimum of 300 plus for sewer. And like I said before, even though you don't make enough off of sewer, you that would still get people some service. That's definitely needed. Amy, can you unmute Jenna?
I'm sorry, yes.
That's fine. We talked until you got back.
Okay. 1 second. There you go.
Hello.
Hello. Hey, you guys have been with us. We have some really serious sewer issues and opportunities. And I know that we're working on a plan or getting some information from a plan. Do you guys have access to these things that they've given us?
I don't know.
It's all the maps and the way they're going to be going and what they're looking at.
I can email that this afternoon.
I'd imagine we don't. If you guys wanted to send it to us, that would be great.
Okay, David, can you take care of that?
I'll get back to my office. I need an email address.
Okay, we'll supply you with those.
Give me that. And I'll
Yeah.
send it. And get back to the office.
Whose email do you need?
New River Gorge.
Okay.
Yeah, in our GRDA.
Leslie, do you guys have all this information?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Oh, I asked Leslie if they have it.
The information that Mr. Altizer presented today that Amy showed on the screen, we do not have those documents, so we would also like to receive a copy of those by email. We have an older map, but not as detailed as the one he presented today.
I'll send you all the information.
Well, Amy, you could probably send them right now too.
Yeah,
Amy-
so Leslie and John Tug will need those.
You know, Amy's gonna go ahead and send them now, John.
Huh?
Amy's gonna send them now.
Oh, okay, thank you, Amy. Okay, Leslie, they're coming to you, you and John, and then in our GRDA,
Send them too.
the everything's coming to you also.
Great.
So we definitely have the need for sewer and water in our county. And I think with having the national park here, that's going to give us an extra opportunity to capture as many dollars as we can. At least that's what I'm hoping for. And I can't speak for, Tom and Allison, but I feel they're feeling the same way when it comes to, good clean drinking water and plus the ability to be able to flush the toilet without it going into a septic tank.
I would like, if you don't mind, are you done? Gina or Jenna, both of you, and Andy?
Yeah.
Hey, I would like to ask you a question. Is there any engineering dollars available from NRGDRDA for what we've been talking about today?
Jenna just had to step out for a phone call, and she would be the one to answer that question. Leslie, I mean, I feel like this is probably more Region 4 than NRGRDA. And so Leslie might know of, funding that's available. I'm not sure, but
Okay, I'm
it's
just,
definitely a question for Jenna, and she
I'm
unfortunately.
just curious.
Yeah.
In and out. Okay, good.
The West Virginia Infrastructure Council does have a program to assist utilities with the cost of pre-construction engineering services, including the preliminary application preparation and detailed design engineering consisting of construction drawings and specifications. That funding is limited to 50% of associated costs, not to exceed $145,000.
So in other words, if the county, it would cut our costs by 50% plus another $50,000, so about $75,000. Is that what so it's $140 some thousand? Is that what you said?
They pay up to 50% of the associated costs, not to exceed $145,000. And that, of course, is something that we would have to apply for.
Okay, is that for each project?
That's for each separate distinct project.
So they could put in $100,000 and we could put in.
In other words, if it's 200,000, we'll put, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
long as we get approved for them.
Yeah.
And
so-
that is also subject to availability of funds in that program.
Okay, thank you.
No. She's talking about engineering design, which is much more than 40,000.
Okay, well, what was you talking about?
Well, the preliminary engineering report is what you have to do to get started, get some ideas, applications made for funding.
Okay, so there's no funding source for that then, is there?
For
Just the
I'm
PDR.
sorry.
That's what we're talking about. Is there funding just for PDR?
that would be in the pre-construction engineering services, in the funding that I just described.
Part of it, right?
Part of it, yes. And that's subject to fund availability, approval of the application, and so on.
Okay, so if the county was, I want to throw this out to the commission, if the county agrees to the 200,000, we go ahead and fill out an application for a grant, and we set aside $200,000 for this project, for all the engineering, whatever he's talking about. Then if we get the grant, they'll step in and pay 50% of it. Could we work it that way?
Tom, it would have to be a separate application for each project.
Okay, okay. But basically, it would work the same way I just explained it. I mean, an application for each project, separate for each project, but to get him started, we could set the money aside for this just in case that we didn't get the grant.
That's correct.
Okay. So then if we didn't get the grant, we'd have 200,000 for everything. If we did get the grant, it only cost the county 100,000 instead of 200,000.
Correct.
We get all these projects moving.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. I just want
Yeah, 50%. Okay,
to give you something to think about.
all right. Leslie, do you have anything else for us?
I don't really have anything else. Thank you.
Well, thank you for helping us. I apologize, I didn't see you on there. Kenny?
I just wanted to mention that sometime back, I come over and made a pitch for getting those projects that you're looking at, ready to go, shovel ready, or at least we wanted to get what you're talking about, the preliminary engineering report done so that we could make an IJDC application and I believe what I'm hearing is that having those in a more ready to go state will be very beneficial as far as that state money being divvied out.
Yes, that's
So
correct.
that's why I may re-emphasize that request for $40,000 to get those, or maybe even a loan of $40,000 that could be paid back when funding become available. That's something that would be a possibility, so that we can get a PER done for those areas that we just mentioned earlier, just so that we are in a better position for for that animal to get struck by the hot in Charleston and make it easy for our delegate to push Fayette County if we have already invested ourselves into getting those areas ready. That makes good sense. I hope we might be able to move that way.
I don't think, and I agree with that. I mean, and still put the grant application in, set the money aside. I don't know how the other commissioners, but I don't think we can make that decision today because it wasn't on the agenda. It would have to be on the 5th. Is that correct?
Yeah.
We'd have to put it back on the agenda and make the decision on the 5th.
Correct.
And are we talking about ARPA funds?
Yeah. Yeah, after we said we wouldn't. The only reason I mentioned it is because same thing Austin was talking about. It would be better to have everything ready in order for the state. And I'm not, believe me, John's done this longer than I have, but that's the only reason I mentioned it. I know we've made an agreement, but the farther we're along in this process, just like it's talking about the broadband, even setting that money to the side just to get somebody to come to the table, in my opinion, maybe to get the state to come to the table with the funding or with everything ready. I'll stop talking now.
And if we can do that by January the 5th, that's before Austin goes in for his committee meeting. So that's just something for us to make sure it's on Ruth's.
So you guys are talking about funding a study of these
Not a
projects,
study. I don't think it's a study.
a pre-engineering study.
So preliminary engineering report, it's the
Report.
first stage to the design of the project. It actually goes towards the design.
Right, for these, out of the ARPA
Before.
funds.
Mhm.
Voting on it on the 5th.
Just been thinking about between now and 3 days before we have to submit the agenda.
How long do these reports take to compile?
2 months, call it 2 months.
Let's think about it this time.
Okay.
And we get half
The
the money back.
reason they're doing this is because we had agreed we were gonna make all the ARPA funding decisions at one time in one place with all of the applicants for those funds.
And I do want to reiterate, it's almost critical for White Oak. They have to have all the engineering work done by August of the coming year.
And the
It takes-
White Oak
and to
study
do 8
estimate
months
is,
To get all designed, and that's pretty tight anyway, so.
the White Oak PER estimate was,
40,000.
And I think what Mr. Hayes was talking about is it could even be as a loan. Did you not mention that, Mr.?
I did say that. I think from what I'm smelling in the air is that if we have committed ourselves to the project and we're moving forward with it, it'll be a lot easier for our delegate to make the pitch that we're already invested and, to the project, and we're trying to do our part to make it be shovel ready.
And correct me if I'm wrong, you even mentioned this being as a loan.
Yes, yeah, I mean, it can be paid back once the funding is acquired.
Yeah, that's not that uncommon. We see
Right,
that.
right.
County commissions do.
Right.
For PR.
Right. That right.
Saying,
Right.
roll that into your.
Right. Right.
money for the whole-
That's why
We
I had
did
to
on
mention
the
that.
My own sewer project too. We had a loan and we was paid back when the funding was secured. I swan, I believe I remember coming over here with a big old check.
Yes, sir, you did. It was 86,000 and some odd dollars.
And you know what? I'm a man of my words.
so what's your question?
My question is, John mentioned additional wastewater customers for the White Oak.
Mhm.
Maybe 300. Is there any, can I help in any way to give you a plan with the state for funding on that? Is there anything I can get done by the time it has to be turned into the property? We're not even using it for the job yet. We'd like to see that go forward. Can I do that?
You need somebody down there to
Is it my-
move some guys. And then ladies, I don't mind helping you out.
Thank you.
Remember
Hey, he's not afraid to go anywhere and speak his mind.
That's what we're like.
Yeah. I'll be standing behind him if he wants me
that.
to.
I'll be the most eloquent speaker you have ever invited.
So you did have an estimated number of customers this would serve, and it was,
I'm asking, do you all want me to run out and do that?
that would be helpful to know.
What time would have to have done by, meeting the 5th maybe?
Yes.
Yeah, in fact, I looked for that on
I
these
can
first.
try to make that happen, like I'm gonna give you this information, I can't promise, but I can try to. We're done that, we're not even here.
Please.
I'm good until we go to executive.
We can, no.
I think we done.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you, David. We appreciate it.
Commission, correct me if I'm wrong, what we're gonna do is mill everything around like we did before and get another letter together to send back down to Austin. I think we talked about.
Yeah.
Looking at everything and then, okay.
Yeah, and in fact, I mean, if we, if you guys want to send everything, I can compile a draft that we
Another
can,
priority list.
yeah, that we can vote on the 5th, and that
Okay.
way we can get it
Still in
out
time
to
for him.
Austin
Okay.
before.
Okay, I have one thing to say. Not concerning this, but it's a good thing. If you haven't had an opportunity to go down to the park to see the lights, I would recommend that you do it. Wayne and his team has done another outstanding job. And when I talked with him last night, first, he was happy that I came by, and second, he said that he is very pleased with the numbers that he's got this year compared to last year. And I'm very pleased with the numbers he told me too. So if you have an opportunity to go by and see it, he's expanded it some. And where?
Yes.
Fayette County Park, yeah. It's $5 to get in because that helps pay the power bill. But it's really good. What's that?
Is that for the car?
Yeah. And you can go around as many times as you'd like to.
Well, I got a grandson that's gonna be 2 and he loves.
Lacey's lights got.
Well, there's plenty to see down there. It opens at 6. So you can get there and get in line early, and that's what I did to get around, but it's definitely worthwhile the $5. If you haven't gone, you should definitely go. All right. Now, let's move to our last item of the evening. Hello, Mr. Taylor. How are you? I told Allison, I said, oh, Mr. Taylor snuck in on
I've
us.
been here like 45 minutes by the time you noticed.
When I'm concentrating on what we're working on, I mean, I'm into it, so. Allison, you've been working with a lot on this. Do you want to go ahead and get us rolling, or?
Well, I feel like a lot of this item is going to have to, I think we're going to have to start an executive session to get some legal guidance on a couple of things, and then we can discuss out here the things that Susie's been waiting to hear from us on timeline and how we might go about transitioning equipment, and also these contracts that she would like to enter into on behalf of the farm with these, get some things that are time sensitive done out there. So while we're in executive session, I expect that we will also get legal advice on our update when we, or at least consult our lawyer about the latest on the Wolf Creek Park development. So with all that, I move that we go into executive session to discuss those things.
That's second.
Okay, we'll be going into executive session at 12:07. Okay, we are back out of executive session. And as usual, Miss Allison will give us our update.
Okay, well, as I said, we discussed with our attorney, the farm transition and some of the legal intricacies and involved with that. And we just had a brief discussion on the progress on Wolf Creek Park. I had a question about that, got that answered. So with regard to the farm, Susie, did you get the list together we requested with all the inventory list and the cost and the vendors and all that stuff, all the equipment out there?
Yeah, I mean, those were the spreadsheets that I sent out that day. I think our main question around equipment, which you said you would send back to
And I
Mr.
forgot.
Taylor, was around what is classified equipment in your mind. I typically operate off of what I've seen in the grant. When we put together grant budgets, it's usually over $5,000 in the switchable assets. So if that's the same working definition, then
No, we need a list of, I mean, literally any personal item. I'm talking, I know this will be tedious, but it's important. Like if you have a shovel that you believe is owned by the county,
yeah,
even if it was purchased through.
that's what I gave to you guys.
Okay, I did not see it.
So
I apologize.
every single expense that has been, every
But who
expense,
owns it?
I mean, this is,
Well-
okay, so I'm trying to talk about what you asked me to provide. to
Okay.
you. And so that's what I'm gonna refer to right now. And so what we have are a category of accounts that have been used for this project. The first of that was the excise money allocated from the county that was managed under the Fayette County Urban Renewal Authority. There's about $190,000 in there that was spent down. And so I provided to you the entire excise ledger. So from the QuickBooks, so that's how we were managing the money under there. And that shows every expense that was made. And those have been categorized in QuickBooks as like, okay, this is utilities or this is contractual or equipment or property improvements. And so that ledger was for all of the excise expenses that came when it was managed under the URA. There's a ledger for all of the expenses that have been made under the excise tax account since it's been managed under the county, the PIA. And then there are all of the grant ledgers, and there's the grant ledger spreadsheet, and for each tab indicates a grant that outlines the budget, and within that grant, it shows every expense, the date that invoice was, and the vendor, what the item was, what budget category it's in. So every expense that has been made is categorized, is accounted for in those spreadsheets. In terms of like formatting all of that, gathering all of the original invoices, those are scattered in between individual grant reports that happen on a quarterly basis for grants that are open and grants that are closed. And then there's also the invoice management that happened while the excise tax was under the URA. So there's a big folder upstairs with all of the hard invoices that account for, hey, so if we charge something to excise, this invoice got approved at the URA board meeting, goes into a folder. It's the same way that I believe that it happens downstairs with Gia. She's holding all of those hard invoices, and then all of the grant invoices, those like paper invoices are accounted for in about 2 file cabinets, mixed in with the grant reports. And so in my mind, that is what you're asking for in terms of how you want it formatted or how you want me to recategorize into a master list. I mean, we can talk about what that looks like.
Yeah, so like, for example, I'm looking at the excise register here, and it says on 4/8/2019, Creed Tractor Sales and Services. There's an expense there, and then on the comment just says New Ridge Community Farm equipment, right? So like that broad of a category is we need to know what it was, like, was that?
Yeah, I mean, so that was, likely the purchase of the VCS, there's been 3, right? I can go and pull and hand you all of these individual invoices that will demonstrate more clearly what it is.
I don't need like per se the invoice, I just literally need a list of, we have a tiller, we have, 4 tillers, we have 3 bobcats, we have a van, we have 10 shovels, that kind of list. Does that make sense? Because because what we have to track down is, we need to figure out what equipment is county owned. And when I say county owned, I mean, is it owned by the commission, or is it owned by the URA, or is it owned by the farmland, is it owned by the sheriff, whoever it is? So that's what we have to do first before we can move forward, because any property that is held or owned, titled, owned, or otherwise by the county commission, if its value is over a certain amount, it has to be auctioned off, or the county has to keep it or auction it off. And so before we can figure out what to do with this property, we need to know what is out there. What is it? What's the value, and who owns it? And some of the ownership may be complicated, and that's what but we have to unravel this, because it's my anticipation that the county commission at some juncture, whenever they decide it's going to remove itself from operating in any form of funding at the farm. And when they do that, when they leave the farm, that equipment has to come with the county. It can't stay out on the farm to be used, because it's county owned property. There may be some way, and that's what we're trying to figure out. It maybe for certain equipment, something can be done. I don't know. We're trying to wrap our hands around what we can dispose of without an auction, or that's what we're just trying to figure out. And right now, seeing that there was a payment for $8,000 for farm equipment, without knowing what that equipment is, because some of the expenses, like for example, say you spent $10,000 on mulch, right? Well, that mulch now becomes part of the ground. The county's not going to scoop up the mulch, take it with it, but we need to know like the equipment that's out there.
So is the understanding that things purchased with excise tax money while it's managed under the URA, who owns that? Because I don't know that, I don't know.
That's what I'm going to try to figure out. That's what I'm going to endeavor to do but before I can do that, I need to see what it is, what the equipment is, because, a van, for example, will have a title, and that's the evidence of ownership, right? So once we know what it is, then we can go look at those things like shovels, or a wheelbarrow, or a tiller.
Right.
We'll just have to look and track down the invoices, see how it was paid out of, what fund it was paid out of, and things like that, then to determine ownership. But that's like step 1 of the equation. Once we figure out who owns it, then the equation is, depending upon who owns it, there's different rules as to how it can be disposed of.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, and then there also seems to be additional layered rules on purchases made with grant funds.
Well, that's another thing that we'll have to look at, what the grant says, because the grant may say it has to stay used for this intended purpose, but at the end of the day, the county can only operate by county law. They can't operate under the grant. So even if the grant says it has to stay with the farm, but it's owned by the county, then we're in a bit of a pickle. We're gonna have to figure out a maneuvering as to how we can either surrender the property back to the grant, or if there's a workaround, that's what we have to figure out. It's complicated when you involve county government and the ownership of personal items, personal property. They're subject to law, the state code, West Virginia code, and that trumps grants. And so that's what we're trying to figure out. Depending upon how it was purchased, under what fund it was purchased out of, who purchased it, all of those things will be factored in our consideration for us to figure out. So what we would need is like spreadsheet that says, here is, we have a tractor, the VIN number is blah, blah, blah.
So there's like, in my mind, there are 3 items with the title out there, and that would be the Sprinter van, the farm truck, and a trailer. And so those in my mind, I mean, I don't know, those are 3 items, the piece of equipment that was purchased with excise, the BCS that you're referring to, included the 2-wheel tractor along with 3 implements. And so it's like, I know what all those purchases, are in terms of, that type, if that's the designation for equipment, is something like with a title.
No. So broadly, there's 2 types of property out there. There's real property, which is the land, and there's personal property, which is basically everything else. We need the everything else. I mean, literally, I don't need an inventory of how many pins that were purchased. But computers, for example, that's what we need an inventory of. Is, I mean, literally.
Yeah, so I guess that's what I'm
everything
asking, is that you would like these to then go back and reformat, so every grant ledger has a budget category, and so there's supplies, and under those supplies might be office. So I need a master list with a budget category that is defined by like all the money we spent on personnel, any money on travel. I mean, what are these, right, how do you, is this the master compilation of these items?
I don't care about like, I personally, does not matter to me how much we're paid for employees or how much we pay for travel. What I'm focused on is literally the personal items.
Okay.
I need a list of that.
And then, so just to clarify with things like, so individual pieces of hardware that went to make a component of the high tunnel, the plastic that is used to cover the tunnel, like any items that get used up, like, so then there's like fertilizer and seeds, so none of that, like.
Things that are, that, for lack of a better word, become part of the land. So your seeds that are in the land, we don't need an inventory for, but if you have seeds that are not part of the land that were purchased with, bags of seeds.
So like potting trays.
Just, I think it would be best to just list as much as everything that you possibly can. And then from there, I can narrow down what I need to focus on and things like that. But it would be, in other words, more information is better than not. So when in doubt, include it on there. And then I can look at it and say, I appreciate you including that, but for what I need to do, that's okay, we're gonna set that.
Well, I feel like we're at the top tier of all of the information included, and then I need to work through and just provide the items out that you guys want. It seems like we're at the point where it's like you have every single expenditure that has been made contained in those spreadsheets, but what isn't clear is what are you actually interested in, right? Like you want me to parse out what is actually important for you to determine.
I could say like with our grants, because we get a lot of grants too, and the commission is a grantee. Even though my name's on everything, we do all the paperwork, it all goes to the county commission. And we got federal grants, we have state grants. We do an inventory once you got to put in your grant, say what you want to purchase, being guns, being radios, being whatever, uniforms, whatever. We do an inventory of everything. And then once a year, we go back through and we check and say, what do we have, what got destroyed, whatever. We still keep the stuff that's got destroyed for it, because we get audited by the feds all the time about firearms. They come in, our Humvees, they come in, but they gotta actually come and see them, even though we take pictures and say we have them on site, they gotta come look at them. We get ready to give back some fully automatic weapons that are outdated, we don't need. I can't just sell them, the commission can't just sell them, we gotta return it back to the federal unit that gave it to us. So our uniforms, our pistols, our radios, everything is grant funded, not even just grant funded, I go on everything, so we cover my butt and everybody else. So, well, that's what, we understand it, especially with grants, they can come back, the state and federal can come back and say, what did you purchase with this $10,000? And you point out and you say, here's my inventory, this is what we purchased. They talking about everything. You know, like you said, even though you purchased 10 big bags of mulch, you also use that 10 bags of mulch, but it's the document cover what you did with it and stuff like that. So I mean, I hope I'm not overstepping. I just want to make sure.
So maybe you can help.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty simple if you go from the beginning, and we do, when we give out guns, I'm getting ready to purchase some shotguns off the grant. I gotta put down what time we got, we put serial numbers and everything like that. And it's really, It's all about bookkeeping.
You're probably correct that in these spreadsheets that you have provided, information is probably broadly
More
there,
detail.
but we need more detail, like, you know, again, this one, and I can guess what it is, but I don't wanna guess. I can't guess when I'm trying to give a legal opinion about what to do to dispose of the property, but there's like, for example, on 5/30/2018, it says CompuChecks.com. And then it says office supplies and software. I'm assuming that that's a office program, some sort of software, but I don't know that. I don't want to assume. So I want you to tell me, you know, it says broadly office supplies and software, but what was it? Was it from CompuChecks, was it an accounting program? Or was it, I don't know.
Yeah,
And that's what
I
I need is
And
that.
so to
yeah.
me, that would be like, write the individual invoice that would describe exactly what the items are. Or would you just like me to?
I mean,
have my
if you want to collect all the invoices and give them to me, I can sort through them. It would be a lot more efficient if you just listed out, this is the equipment. You know, just in, you know, because the invoice, you're right, will describe the equipment, but I don't need like that much detail. I just need to know what equipment is out there. Not so much the invoice for the purchasing or things.
Maybe we need to hire somebody to go out there and do this.
Well,
I'm just confused. I mean, I'm just really confused.
I think all you're asking for is an inventory,
yes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
not based on the expenditures. So like, go look in the barn and if you see a shovel, write it down. And where it came from. That's what he wants. He doesn't want the invoices. I think it's like getting way too complicated.
Yes, that is correct. You see a shovel, write it down. Here's a tiller, write it down. Here's,
okay, so that's the definite, and I guess that was the clarity of like, all these individual, like, right, the components to make a thing. Like, you're not asking me to go in and
No.
describe like, okay, we have.
Tell
these
us we have the
universal
thing.
cross connectors that were.
right, if you built like a pole building and you covered it in sheet metal, just put pole building. I don't need you to say sheet metal roof, side with poles, just a pole build would be sufficient, not the component parts. So with that caveat though, I do understand like with certain farm equipment, you may have a tiller and you get a specialized attachment on it. You need to identify the attachment, you know, but the individual pieces that make up a final product, I don't need. I think that hopefully that provides clarity.
Well, and also Susie, like what wouldn't count anymore is things that you've purchased and used, like seeds and things like that. I mean, this is, you know, if you were going to buy this farm from someone else and you were going to sell everything that came with it, you know, we're trying to place a value on those things. And we're also trying to determine who legally owns the things that have legal owners, like based on where the accounts were when they were purchased, the titles on these, you know, vehicles and things like that, the names that the titles are in and that sort of thing. Like
Okay. So an inventory with associated like account that it was purchased with?
That would probably clarify who bought it.
That would help.
So
yeah,
it would
for
say,
sure.
hey, this was the LFPP grant, or
Sure.
this was the excise under URA versus excise under
Yes,
X, Y, and Z.
Yes.
So
yes.
come
yes.
back, compile an inventory of items that are at the farm, not necessarily individual components to
Correct.
X, Y, and Z. Not necessarily hard infrastructure, but all of these, you know,
Yeah, like-
supplies, ongoing, not used up. supplies.
right. If you came into this room, you're going to say, okay, 3 nameplates, you know, how many chairs, this table, you know, that sort of thing, you know.
Freezer.
That's what we're looking for.
Okay, and I guess, yeah, who owns it is account, and that's like who's, yeah.
Like you are-
I'll determine who owns. it.
Yeah.
That's what I.
Okay, you're gonna do that.
Just which account? She's
Yeah,
gonna put
if
that so you
identify
can.
which account it comes from, that would save me from cross-checking to the Excel spreadsheets that you provided that likely contain that information. But I'll determine who owns it. You just identify the source of the money. Where it came from.
And we need the VIN numbers on the vehicles And if you have titles, copies of, just titles, copies of the titles would be great.
Okay, and so, and then it's like, right, there's no view that there's precedent for, like county commissions to work with nonprofits in this way where there's the acquiring and sharing of assets in pursuit of an agenda or project?
The simple answer of that is, the county commission itself cannot dispose of property, of a certain value without auctioning it off.
Of a certain, what is that?
It's $1,000.
Okay, so anything above $1,000, yeah, there's
But
that.
we need an inventory of everything, not just, don't think.
No,
well,
no,
this-
I'm not trying to, yeah, I'm just trying to gain clarity on what.
Clarity is everything. He'll determine, I think he'll determine what it is.
Right.
Value
And
and
is there,
everything.
and I guess I'm just trying to gauge interest, like, is there an interest for the county to see if there is a legal
Yes,
precedent or standing?
that's
to
what
say,
he's
hey,
doing.
can we-
That's what we're trying.
that's what he's doing.
That's the-
The
And I guess that's more of like.
No, listen, it's not, it's what he's told you a few times. He has to have it before he can determine in the very first of the conversation. And I'm not trying to be hard. He said before we can determine how to dispose of this, or sell it, we need to know what it is. So I mean, I hope I'm not
Well,
speaking out
and
loud,
there are
but
different rules depending on whether it was URA or whether it was county and that sort of thing. That's why he needs to go through. We're trying to craft a solution, but it's a complicated crafting.
Yeah, and I, that's all, like, having clarity that there is an interest to see, right, where it's like, hey, these things were purchased and if there is a mechanism that there is. Like, an
Yes,
interest to
that's
work.
the whole reason we're
Susie,
here.
listen, let me
That's,
put it to you
that's
this
it.
way, on what I'm gonna say. If there wasn't interest, we wouldn't be paying that man to figure it out.
Okay,
I
I
mean-
mean, I just, this is our first communication on it.
I don't think it's our first communication, but I mean, this in depth it is.
We have mentioned before that, we thought the property might have to be auctioned, that we were concerned from in the beginning about the land itself too, as you recall. So we've been trying to sort all this out to make sure that whatever we do, once it's done, it's done properly, and that it's also insulated from any problems down the road. Like, we're trying to make sure we do everything right now. So we don't, if we rush through this and didn't do this meticulously like we're trying to do, then down the road, there could be challenges and your business or the business, the nonprofit could lose, this. I mean, in a suit. There are lots of things that could happen. So we're just trying to, and then we're accountable to the taxpayers because it's taxpayer dollars that have gone into all of this. And we have to make sure that, we follow the statutes on transferring property. So the interest is definitely here. That's why we've spent so much time in executive session discussing options. And we really can't even get into, Mr. Taylor can't form a recommendation to us without the information we're requesting. And it's a level of detail that, I know is going to take a little while, but it'll be worth it. So, I mean, it'll help us do it right. And that's what you need us to
I've
do.
been on the same page about providing that. I think just getting clarity on, specifically what works for him to be able to make that next transition. I feel like we have clarity on that at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like if you walk in there and you look, your freezers or whatever you have, just all that, what you see is what you want to write down.
Okay.
And then, I mean, just, if you bought a house, you want to know if the appliances are staying, it's kind of the same sort of thing, Now I want to move on to the contracts.
Okay.
Is that
One
everything
more
you
thing.
needed? Okay.
If you can, and I can work with Ruth too on this, but if you have copies of the grant documentation, there's 3 grants that you've identified. If I could get any and all copies of whatever you have that relate to the grants, that'll also help when we determine what has to happen to the property. That is a consideration. The state code is the bigger consideration.
Yeah.
But any and all, so I know there's an ARC grant. If all documents related to that we need, there's like an LFPD or something like that.
Yeah. So I guess the ones that we would be expecting to transfer the subaward agreement might be the
Well,
three that you're referring to.
Our, we
We have
would
about-
probably need all of the grants because as you identified, if a piece of equipment was purchased through a grant and that grant has strings attached to that piece of equipment, we need to make sure that we're not in violation of the terms and agreements as it relates to the
So the
grant.
terms and conditions associated with the grants.
Well, I'll give you the lawyer phrases, any and all documents related to the grant that you have. So even if you have an email, say there's a grant administrator and you're emailing with that grant administrator about expending a fund, giving that document, because they could provide some insight in that document as to how they view some of these issues. So just, the legal phrase, of any and all documents that you think, but certainly the terms and conditions. So, and we can start with that. I can take a look at that, and then we can piecemeal it back. But the inventory list and grant documentations would go a long, long way for us to determine what to do with this property or how to do whatever it is we want to do.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I need.
Okay. So with regard to the contracts, has there been any work performed on any of them yet?
Has anything been started?
Yeah, on one of them, but that was, yeah,
Who approved that?
no one,
So this person voluntarily just started it?
they did.
And who is that?
That's Mr. Riley. Bill
Who?
Riley,
Who's he with?
New River Remodeling.
Wow. Labor.
Is that, are you building a new structure? Is that what that is?
No, that's a pad for, what's gonna be an outdoor oven that was part of the Try This Mini grant that we received.
I think, given all the difficulties with discussion we just had with inventory, in my opinion anyway, I don't think you ought to purchase a building that would count as something like this. That's just going to be one more thing that we're going to have to deal with, or if God forbid, we have to end up auctioning stuff, that's going to be another thing that is, that we're going to lose money on. We're going to put money into it and lose money on. What? Oh, okay. The other contracts, I don't have a problem with either of them.
What are they for?
So there's several contracts, well, there's 3 contracts, and then there's one, I think you're referring to the purchase of a building, which I don't know if that classifies as a contract or not. But the one is for New River Remodeling, for that slab, for the outdoor oven, that's part of the Try This Mini grant. We expanded what the original footprint was gonna be so that we could have a place to put picnic tables and have an outdoor meeting kind of community area for people together as part of that grant. And then the other one was with Casco Roofing. And so we have that lean-to on the side of the building that contains our wash pack area, and where we're engaged now in winter growing, enclosing that area and getting it prepared for summer heat. Allows us to continue to wash and pack out vegetables through the winter. That was the one with Casto. And then the other one was with Heritage Growing Solutions. So he is this is a master's program under Lewis Jet, and he's been specializing in irrigation systems, automated irrigation systems for small scale ag. Part of the ARC grant that we have is contractual money to do well development. And part of that was he was going to lead that initiative, design our new irrigation system to run off of the well water so we can get off city because it's expensive, and we have the money in the ARC grant to pay for the contract to dig the new well, and he was gonna get paid to do the design and also develop all the SOPs around management and deliver a training so that we could invite other farmers in to see how we set up the system and we could, you know, be a resource for those folks. So that was those were the 3 contracts, and then the 4th one was for Pineville as a means to like set up a new office space as we move out of the county. You know, we no longer will be, I'll no longer be operating from upstairs. The building that's there is already really maxed out for its multi-purpose use. We have some office space in there that's like front of house for retail, our aggregation and distribution all happens in there, but it's a very busy space and it is difficult to, and lots of people stop in and want to engage. So the building was going to be to really just house like the new and kind of my role and executive team space and program development space. So that was the thinking behind that. I guess just clarity on what, you know, I provided to you guys that budget that kind of explained what my plan was for spending down the remaining money in excise that has been allocated to this project. There's no more money going in. If you can provide advice on what it, I mean, are we at the point where there's, yeah, like we're not spending, like I should not expect to spend that money because we haven't sorted out these other items. Just as a way I'm trying to figure out, you know, functionally, what does that mean for me? If you guys, you know, are taking the position that it creates more stuff to figure out.
Finish the slab and cast a roofing on that lint too.
Yeah, that's,
Because that's still property, so they can go ahead and do that.
I think, at least from my perspective, purchasing more inventory for us to sort out is not a good idea. With regard to the, you know, the labor for these projects you have going, I don't have a problem with that. Approving those.
Yeah, I don't either. I think I'm like John and Miss Taylor, buying the equipment to have to resell it or auction it off.
Or, yeah.
I would wait, any equipment, I would wait, you know.
As far as New River remodeling, where they're making the bigger oven area, not they're making an oven, but making an oven area, and Casto roofing to fix that lean-to so that you can have your, you know, your water, your wash station for the stuff you grow through the winter. That should all be with the property, and I would need a motion to you know, to do these two.
Okay, well, can I see? Move that we approve the contract with New River Remodeling. Let's start with that one.
That's it.
We've got a motion, a second, to approve the contract with New River Remodeling for the expanded oven area. All those in favor?
Aye. And I also move that we approve the Casto roofing contract.
I second.
Okay, we've got a motion, a second, to approve the Casto roofing to fix the lean-to that's attached to the building so that they can have washing of vegetables. All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Anything else?
You all should either move or postpone or something, the other items.
Say what now?
She asked about several contracts, and so
Oh,
for the
okay.
record, you guys should mention it so that it's in the
Thank
minutes.
you.
You're welcome.
I would say there's 2 items that you did not take any action on. The Pine View building was one, and the other was the Harry's Irrigation and Growing Solutions Independent consulting contract where this person can come out and design an irrigation system based upon well water.
I
Let me,
don't have a problem with that.
may I ask a question on it? Would that be part of the property?
Yeah, well, actually, but the way I understand it is this guy's just coming out to design a system and give them plans to do this. There would have to be an additional contract if there's additional work to actually be done for it. So there would be no, this is just some guy
It's a
coming out there
consulting.
saying, we're gonna design a plan, is my understanding.
Yeah, so I guess let's, just to give you context for, my thinking on this is, right, we've engaged 2 well drillers, with great difficulty. And so after meeting initially, we've already had 1 meeting, but the secondary meeting would be to follow up with the well driller, getting the quotes, gathered for the 2 that potentially are available. And then overseeing that installation, like the actual drilling of the well. So that would be a second contract that is reimbursed under ARC. And then there would be the purchasing of, some additional, so like a couple frost-free hydrants, some additional irrigation supplies, a reservoir tank, the well pump. And so the additional items like complete the system, so drilling of a well and then materials, supply purchases.
That's not what this contract is. This
No, I'm
contract
just
is
giving
about,
context.
you're right, this contract is about for a guy to come out there and tell him, you need to drill here, you need to have a pipe here, you need to do this, you need to do that. And
Okay.
And that's what this contract is purchasing, is this guy to just design the system. The component parts that would go into the system are not under contract yet, or before this body to be approved, this would just be like phase 1. Like you're talking with the public service district, the engineering.
Yeah, engineering
This
report.
is essentially what this guy's gonna
This is a water report.
do.
Well, I move that we approve that irrigation and growing solutions contract as well.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to approve the irrigation setup for the farm, for New Roots Farm. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is
And,
passed.
and then I move that we decline or deny the contract to purchase a building.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second to decline to purchase a building. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now. Okay, she's clearing her throat.
That's everything on the agenda.
Yes,
there.
those are the ones you just approved.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, motion to adjourn.
Me,
Second.
and me. Okay, we're adjourned. Everybody have a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.